starving German shepherd was dragging himself on broken legs. What baby did next melted everyone's heart. The story you're about to listen to will leave you speechless. What this little girl did for a dying dog changed everything, in ways nobody could have imagined. If you think you know where this story is headed, trust me, you don't. Rain pounded against the farmhouse windows, each drop like tiny bullets firing from the darkening sky. 4-year-old Lily pressed her small nose against the cold glass, her breath creating fog circles that expanded and contracted with each exhale. The thunderstorm had knocked out power across their rural county, leaving the Morgan family with nothing but candles and flashlights to illuminate their century-old farmhouse. "Lily, honey, step back from the window," called her mother, Kate, as she arranged candles on the kitchen table. "The lightning's getting worse." But Lily didn't move. Her eyes had locked on to something moving slowly across their muddy field, a dark shape dragging itself through the downpour. Her tiny fingers pressed harder against the glass. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the storm. "Mommy, look." Kate glanced up from the emergency radio she'd been trying to tune, irritation flickering across her face. With her husband Tom working the night shift at the hospital 20 miles away, she was already on edge. "Lily, I told you to—" "Dog," Lily interrupted, pointing with a trembling finger. "Hurt dog." Kate frowned and moved to the window, squinting through the rain-streaked glass. Lightning flashed, illuminating their property for a brief second, just long enough for Kate to see it. A large dog, maybe a German shepherd, was crawling across their field. Not walking. Crawling. "Oh my God!" Kate gasped, grabbing her raincoat from the hook by the door. "Stay inside, Lily!" But as Kate reached for her phone to call animal control, Lily's face transformed. Her usually quiet, reserved daughter suddenly erupted. "No, no phone! Help him now!" Kate froze, startled by her daughter's outburst. Lily had hardly spoken more than a few words at a time since the accident last year, the one that had taken her grandparents and left Lily trapped in the car with them for nearly an hour before help arrived. The doctors had called it selective mutism, triggered by trauma. Yet here she was, voice ringing clear as a bell. "We'll help him, honey," Kate said, stunned. "But I need to call someone who—" "No time!" Lily screamed, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed her tiny yellow raincoat and struggled to put it on, her small hands shaking. "He's dying, Mommy. He's dying right now." The urgency in her daughter's voice sent chills down Kate's spine. This wasn't a normal reaction, even for a child who loved animals. Something else was happening here. "Okay," Kate said, helping Lily with her coat. "We'll go see him together, but stay behind me, understand?" The rain hit them like cold needles as they stepped onto the porch. Kate flashed her light across the field, the beam cutting through the darkness until it found the dog. He had collapsed in the mud about 50 yards from their house, a dark heap barely moving now. Kate grabbed an old blanket from the porch bench and took Lily's hand. Together they made their way through the storm, mud sucking at their boots with each step. As they got closer, Kate's stomach twisted. The dog was in much worse condition than she'd thought. Its ribs protruded sharply against its matted fur. One back leg bent at an unnatural angle, and the other looked swollen and raw. The dog was literally dragging itself forward, using only its front legs, leaving a trail in the mud behind it. When the light hit its eyes, they reflected back with a mixture of pain and fear that made Kate's chest tighten. The dog raised its head weakly, baring its teeth in a defensive growl. "Stay back, Lily," Kate warned, stopping several feet away. She'd grown up around enough farm dogs to know that an injured animal could be unpredictable. "He's scared and hurt." But Lily pulled her hand free from her mother's grasp. Before Kate could stop her, the little girl walked straight toward the growling dog. "Lily!" Kate lunged forward, heart in her throat. What happened next would stay with Kate forever. The massive dog, who moments before had been snarling defensively, suddenly went still. Lily approached without hesitation, her small yellow raincoat bright against the gray downpour. She knelt in the mud beside the animal and placed her tiny hand on its head. "It's okay," Lily whispered, her voice somehow carrying through the storm. "We won't hurt you. Promise." The dog's eyes, amber and filled with pain, locked onto Lily's. Then, incredibly, it lowered its head and whimpered. "His name is Guardian," Lily announced, stroking the dog's mud-caked fur. Kate approached cautiously, blanket held out in front of her. "Honey, How do you know he has a name? Lily didn't answer. She just continued to stroke the dog's head, whispering things Kate couldn't hear over the rain. We need to get him inside, Kate said, crouching down beside them. The dog's condition was critical. She could see that now. Along with the obviously broken legs, there were wounds on his sides that looked deliberate, not accidental. Someone had hurt this animal intentionally. The dog, Guardian, as Lily had called him, weighed at least 90 pounds, even in his emaciated state. There was no way Kate could carry him alone. I'll call Mr. Peterson next door, Kate said, pulling out her phone. Their neighbor owned the farm adjacent to theirs and had helped them many times before. Mr. Peterson answered on the fourth ring, his voice gruff with sleep. Kate, everything all right? We found an injured dog on our property, badly hurt. I can't move him alone. There was a pause on the line. That stray's been around for days. Animal control's been looking for it. Heard it might be dangerous. Belonged to someone mixed up in trouble. He's hurt, Jim. Broken legs. Someone beat this dog. Another pause. Look, Kate, I'm sorry, but I can't get involved. Got my grandkids staying with me. Call animal control in the morning. The line went dead before she could respond. Kate stared at her phone in disbelief. Jim Peterson had never refused to help them before. What kind of trouble could be associated with an injured dog? She tried 2 other neighbors with the same result. No one would come out in the storm to help with a stray dog they'd heard might be trouble. Lightning cracked overhead, followed immediately by a deafening boom of thunder. Lily didn't flinch, still focused entirely on the dog, but Guardian trembled violently. We have to move him ourselves, Kate decided, tucking her phone away. The storm's getting worse. She spread the blanket beside the dog, trying to figure out how to roll him onto it without causing more pain. Guardian watched her warily, but made no move to bite or growl. His legs hurt really bad, Lily said quietly. The bad men broke them on purpose. Kate's hands stilled on the blanket. What bad men, Lily? How do you know that? But Lily just stroked the dog's ear and whispered, We need to hurry. With careful movements, Kate managed to coax Guardian onto the blanket. He whimpered when his legs shifted, but didn't resist. Kate grabbed 2 corners of the blanket while Lily, refusing to leave the dog's side, held his head and whispered reassurances. Together they dragged the blanket across the field, moving inch by painful inch through the mud and rain. Guardian was incredibly heavy, and twice Kate had to stop, her arms burning with the effort. Each time, Lily urged her on with unusual intensity. The bad men might come back, she said during one such pause, her eyes wide and serious in the beam of the flashlight. By the time they reached the house, Kate was gasping for breath and covered in mud. Getting Guardian up the porch steps was an ordeal that took all her remaining strength. The dog tried to help, pulling himself forward with his front paws whenever he could. Once inside, Kate cleared a space in the living room near the fireplace and laid out old comforters to make a bed. She helped Guardian settle onto it, his massive body trembling with exhaustion and pain. I need to call the vet, Kate said, reaching for her phone. No phone, Lily insisted again, her small face suddenly desperate. They'll find him. Who will find him, Lily? Kate asked, kneeling to look her daughter in the eyes. You need to tell me what's going on. Lily's lower lip trembled. The bad men? They hurt Guardian because he saw them. A chill that had nothing to do with her wet clothes ran down Kate's spine. Saw them do what, honey? Bad things, Lily whispered. She wrapped her arms around Guardian's neck, burying her face in his fur. The dog, despite his injuries, shifted slightly to curl around her. Kate sat back on her heels, mind racing. Her daughter, who had barely spoken in complete sentences for the past year, was now talking about bad men and acting as though she somehow knew this dog. And the dog, this frightened, injured animal, was responding to Lily in a way that defied explanation. The storm howled outside as Kate struggled with what to do. Guardian needed medical attention urgently. His legs were definitely broken, and some of the cuts on his body looked infected. But something about Lily's fear of making phone calls nagged at her. If someone had deliberately hurt this dog, there might be more to the story than she realized. In the end, maternal instinct won out. Kate rummaged through their medicine cabinet and pulled out the first aid kit. She wasn't a vet, but Tom was a nurse. He'd shown her enough basic wound care to at least clean Guardian up until they could get proper help. I'm going to clean his wounds, Lily. He might not like it. Can you keep him calm?" Lily nodded solemnly. As Kate approached with antiseptic wipes, Guardian's eyes tracked her movements. His muscles tensed, but Lily placed her small hand on his head and whispered in his ear. To Kate's amazement, the dog relaxed. For the next hour, Kate worked methodically to clean mud and blood from Guardian's coat. The more dirt she removed, the worse his condition appeared. Besides the 2 broken legs, Guardian had deep cuts along his sides, some partially healed, others fresh. His paw pads were raw and bleeding. Most disturbing were the marks around his neck, rope burns that suggested he'd been tied up and had broken free. Throughout the process, Guardian remained unnaturally still, only occasionally whimpering when Kate touched a particularly painful spot. Each time, Lily would whisper to him, and he would settle again. The bond forming between them was as inexplicable as it was immediate. When Kate finally stepped back, hands cramped from the detailed work, she was shocked to see that Lily had fallen asleep curled against Guardian's side. The dog's eyes remained open, alert despite his exhaustion, one front paw positioned protectively over Lily's small body. Kate's phone showed just past midnight. Tom wouldn't be home until morning. She debated calling him at the hospital, but decided against it. There was nothing he could do from there, and emergency rooms on stormy nights were chaotic enough without personal calls. Instead, she searched online for emergency veterinarians in their area. The nearest one was in the same town as Tom's hospital, almost 20 miles away. With the storm raging and the country roads likely flooded in places, getting there tonight would be nearly impossible. As she set her phone down, thunder cracked directly overhead, rattling the windows. The lights, which had flickered back on an hour earlier, went out again. Guardian's head snapped up, his ears forward, listening to something Kate couldn't hear. "What is it, boy?" she asked softly, not wanting to wake Lily. Guardian's eyes fixed on the kitchen door that led out to the back of the property. A low, rumbling growl began in his chest. Kate felt the hairs rise on her arms. Carefully, she moved to the window and peered out into the darkness. The rain made it impossible to see anything clearly, but something about Guardian's reaction set off alarm bells in her mind. She checked the locks on all the doors, then settled into the armchair closest to Lily and Guardian. Just in case, she kept her phone in her hand and placed Tom's old baseball bat within reach. "We'll get you help in the morning," she promised Guardian quietly. "Both of you." The dog's amber eyes met hers in the dim light of the emergency lantern, and Kate had the uncanny feeling he understood every word. Then he lowered his head beside Lily, his body still positioned between the child and the door, despite his injuries. Kate didn't remember falling asleep, but she woke with a start to Guardian's growling. The storm had passed, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the deep, threatening rumble coming from the dog's chest. Lily was still asleep, but Guardian was fully alert, his focus on the back door. Then Kate heard it, the unmistakable sound of the doorknob turning slowly. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she grabbed the baseball bat and moved silently toward the kitchen. The digital clock on the microwave was dark from the power outage, but the gray light filtering through the windows told her dawn wasn't far off. The doorknob stopped turning. Whoever was out there had discovered it was locked. For a moment, all was quiet. Then came the faint sound of footsteps moving around the side of the house. Kate hurried back to the living room. "Lily," she whispered, gently shaking her daughter. "Lily, wake up. We need to be very quiet." Lily's eyes opened instantly, alert in a way that children's eyes rarely are when first waking. "They're here," she said simply. Before Kate could ask who they were, there was a sharp crack from the front of the house. Guardian struggled to his feet, wobbling precariously on his 2 good legs, placing himself between the Morgans and the front door. Kate pulled Lily behind her and raised the bat. "I've called the police," she lied loudly toward the door. "They're on their way." From outside came the sound of rapid footsteps, then a car engine starting. Headlights swept across the windows as a vehicle pulled away quickly. Guardian collapsed back onto the comforters, his strength spent. But his eyes remained fixed on the door, his body trembling with exhaustion and pain. Kate checked all the windows and doors again. The front door lock had been tampered with, but the deadbolt had held. Whoever had tried to break in had been scared off by her bluff. "Who were they, Lily?" Kate asked, returning to the living room. "How did you know someone was here?" Lily stroked Guardian's head. "Guardian told me," she said simply. "The bad men found him. They don't want him to tell." "Tell what, honey?" what he saw when they hurt his person. Kate sat down heavily on the couch. None of this made sense, yet the attempted break-in had been very real. And how could she explain Lily's behavior? Her silent daughter was speaking in full sentences, as if whatever had locked her voice away had suddenly released its hold. Guardian whined softly and licked Lily's hand. The gesture was so gentle, so at odds with his size and fearsome appearance. "He needs a doctor," Lily said urgently. "His legs hurt really bad." Kate nodded. "We'll call as soon as it's light out." Lily frowned. "No phones. They listen." The certainty in her daughter's voice sent another chill through Kate. "Lily, how do you know these things? How do you know about Guardian?" Lily tilted her head as if the answer were obvious. "He tells me. In here." She tapped her temple. "You can hear what he's thinking?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Since the accident, I hear animals now, but Guardian talks the most clear." Kate didn't know what to make of this. Childhood imagination, trauma response, or something else entirely. Whatever it was, someone had just tried to break into their home, and it had something to do with this dog. "We need help," Kate decided. "I'm going to drive us all to town. We'll go to the hospital where Daddy works. They'll have security there, and we can find a vet nearby." Lily looked at Guardian, then nodded. "He says okay, but we have to hurry. He's hurting a lot." Moving Guardian to the car was an ordeal. The dog was too weak to help much now, and Kate struggled to lift the blanket with him on it. Eventually, she managed to slide him into the back seat of their SUV, where Lily immediately climbed in beside him. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, Kate pulled away from the farmhouse, constantly checking her rearview mirror. Guardian lay with his head on Lily's lap, his eyes half closed with pain. They were about 5 miles from home when Lily suddenly stiffened. "Car coming," she said. "Behind us." Kate checked her mirror again and saw headlights in the distance, moving fast. "It's just someone in a hurry, honey." "It's them," Lily insisted. "Guardian says it's the same smell." The headlights grew larger, the vehicle rapidly closing the distance between them. Kate pressed harder on the accelerator, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Their old SUV shuddered as she pushed it faster than it was accustomed to going on the wet country roads. The car behind them was close enough now that Kate could make out its shape, a dark sedan with tinted windows. It swerved slightly, pulling into the oncoming lane as if to pass them. "Hold on," Kate warned, just as the sedan accelerated and rammed into their rear bumper. The impact jolted them forward. Guardian yelped in pain, and Lily screamed. Kate fought to keep the SUV on the road as the sedan backed off, only to ram them again. "Why are they doing this?" Kate shouted, more to herself than to Lily. "They want Guardian dead," Lily answered, her voice eerily calm amid the chaos. "He's the only one who saw—" The sedan pulled alongside them now. Through the tinted window, Kate caught a glimpse of a man wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face. His mouth was set in a grim line as he jerked his steering wheel toward them. Kate swerved to avoid the collision, sending their SUV onto the shoulder. Gravel pinged against the undercarriage as she wrestled the wheel, trying to get back on the asphalt. The sedan dropped back, preparing for another assault. In the back seat, Lily had her arms wrapped around Guardian's neck, her face buried in his fur. Kate's mind raced. They were still 10 miles from town, with no other cars in sight. The sedan was faster and more maneuverable than their SUV, and whoever was driving it was clearly willing to run them off the road. Just as the sedan accelerated for another attack, flashing lights appeared on the horizon ahead of them. A police cruiser rounded the bend, its lights spinning. The sedan's brakes squealed as it swerved back into its lane, then made a sharp U-turn and sped away in the opposite direction. Kate's legs were shaking so badly she could barely operate the pedals, but she managed to pull over as the police cruiser approached. The officer inside slowed, clearly noting their damaged rear bumper. For a moment, Kate thought he would stop to help them. Instead, after a brief pause, the cruiser accelerated past them, making a U-turn to pursue the sedan. "That was Officer Daniels," Lily said from the back seat. "Guardian knows him." Kate stared at her daughter in the rearview mirror. "How could Guardian possibly know a police officer from our town?" Lily stroked the dog's head. "Because Guardian used to be a police dog. His person was a police officer too, until the bad men killed him." The world seemed to tilt beneath Kate as the pieces began to click into place. The attempted break-in, the attack on the road, Guardian's injuries. a murdered police officer. What had they gotten themselves into? With shaking hands, Kate put the SUV back in drive. "We're going to the hospital," she said firmly, "and then we're going to find out exactly what's going on." Guardian lifted his head weakly and licked Lily's cheek, as if giving his approval to the plan. In that moment, despite everything that had happened, Kate felt a strange certainty that as long as Guardian was with them, Lily would be okay. What she didn't know was that their ordeal was just beginning, and that the bond between her daughter and this broken dog would soon be the only thing standing between their family and grave danger. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty when Kate pulled in, the early morning shift change still an hour away. She parked as close to the emergency entrance as possible and turned to face Lily and Guardian in the back seat. "I'll go find your father," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You stay here with Guardian. Lock the doors after I leave." Lily nodded, her small hand still resting on Guardian's head. The dog's breathing had become more labored during the drive, his eyes glazed with pain. Kate sprinted through the automatic doors, scanning the reception area frantically until she spotted Nurse Jenkins, a friend of Tom's. "Ellen, I need to find Tom. It's an emergency," Kate gasped. The older nurse looked up in alarm. "He's finishing his shift in the ICU. What's happened?" "Someone tried to run us off the road. We have an injured dog. I think he belonged to a police officer who was murdered. We need help." Ellen's eyes widened. "Wait here," she said, picking up a phone. Minutes later, Tom burst through the staff doors, still in his scrubs, his face pale with worry. "Kate, are you and Lily okay?" "We're not hurt," Kate said, grabbing his arm. "But someone tried to break into the house last night, and then a car ran us off the road this morning. And Lily, Tom, she's talking, in full sentences." Tom stared at her. "What? Since when?" "Since last night, since we found this dog. He's outside in the car with her. He's badly injured, Tom. Someone broke his legs deliberately." Tom ran a hand through his hair, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "Let me get my kit, and I'll call Dr. Winters. She's a vet who lives just down the block from us. She owes me a favor." Within minutes, Tom was following Kate to the SUV, a security guard named Ron trailing behind them. When Kate opened the car door, Tom froze. Lily was singing softly to Guardian, a made-up melody with no words. It was the first time they had heard her sing since the accident. "Hey, Pumpkin," Tom said gently, crouching beside the open door. "Mom tells me you made a new friend." Lily looked up, her eyes bright with an awareness that had been missing for months. "This is Guardian, Daddy. He needs help really bad. The bad men hurt him." Tom glanced at Kate, then back to his daughter. "I see that. I'm going to help him, okay? Dr. Winters is coming too. She's an animal doctor." While they waited for the vet, Tom carefully examined Guardian. His expression grew grimmer as he assessed the dog's injuries. "These weren't accidents," he murmured to Kate. "The breaks in his legs are clean, done with something heavy, like a bat. And these cuts." He pointed to the parallel marks on Guardian's sides. "Those were made with a knife. Someone tortured this dog." Lily, who had been watching them intently, nodded, because he saw them hurt his person, his police person. Tom and Kate exchanged looks. "How do you know he belonged to a police officer, Lily?" Tom asked carefully. "He told me," Lily replied simply. "In my head. He's been looking for someone to help him since he escaped." Before Tom could respond, a blue sedan pulled up beside them. A tall woman with silver-streaked black hair emerged, carrying a large medical bag. "Tom," she greeted, then noticed Guardian in the back seat. Her professional detachment slipped. "My God, what happened to him?" "That's what we're trying to figure out," Tom said, stepping aside to let her examine the dog. Dr. Winters worked methodically, her experienced hands gentle on Guardian's battered body. Throughout the examination, Lily maintained physical contact with the dog, whispering reassurances that seemed to keep him calm despite the pain. "Both hind legs are broken," Dr. Winters finally announced. "The right one is a clean break that could heal well with surgery. The left has multiple fractures and shows signs of infection. He's also severely dehydrated and malnourished. I'd estimate he hasn't had proper food or water for at least a week." "Can you help him?" Lily asked, her voice small but clear. Dr. Winters met the child's gaze. "I'll try my best, but he needs surgery, fluids, antibiotics, more than I can do in a parking lot." "We can't take him to a vet clinic," Kate said, glancing around nervously. "Someone is after this dog. They tried to break into our house last night, and ran us off the road this morning." Dr. Winters frowned. "What aren't you telling me, Tom?" Tom sighed. "Lily says Guardian belonged to a police officer who was murdered. That Guardian witnessed it, and now they're trying to silence him, and anyone who helps him." To her credit, Dr. Winters didn't dismiss this outright. She looked thoughtfully at Guardian, then at Lily. "There was a canine officer killed about 3 weeks ago," she said slowly. "Detective James Harper. His body was found at his home, and his police dog went missing. It was in the paper. They said the dog might have attacked the killers and been taken or killed." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "They hurt him really bad, but he got away. He's been hiding and looking for someone who could hear him." Dr. Winters straightened up. "I have a fully equipped surgery at my home office. Let's get him there before these people find you again." 20 minutes later, they pulled into the garage of Dr. Winters' craftsman-style house on the outskirts of town. The vet had insisted they follow her in Kate's SUV rather than transfer Guardian to her car to minimize his pain. "The surgery will take several hours," Dr. Winters explained, as they carefully moved Guardian to an examination table in her converted garage. "And he'll need round-the-clock care for days afterward." "We'll stay," Kate said immediately. "We can't go home anyway, not until we figure out what's going on." Dr. Winters nodded. "There's a spare bedroom upstairs. And Tom, I could use your assistance." Lily refused to leave Guardian's side as Dr. Winters prepared for surgery. The dog's eyes remained fixed on the little girl, as if drawing strength from her presence. "You have to sleep now," Lily told Guardian, stroking his muzzle, "but I'll be here when you wake up, I promise." As Dr. Winters administered the anesthesia, Guardian's eyelids grew heavy. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was Lily's solemn face above his. While Tom assisted with the surgery, Kate took Lily upstairs to the spare bedroom. Her daughter was exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, testimony to the night's ordeal. "Try to sleep, honey," Kate said, tucking her into the queen-sized bed. "Guardian will be okay. Dr. Winters and Daddy will fix him." Lily looked up, her expression oddly adult. "The bad men will come here too. They don't want Guardian to tell what he knows." Kate sat on the edge of the bed. "What does he know, Lily? Can you tell me?" Lily's brow furrowed in concentration. "It's hard. Pictures, not words. Guardian saw his person, Detective Harper, looking at papers, important papers with names. Then the bad men came, 3 of them. They hurt Detective Harper, asking about the papers. When he wouldn't tell, they—" She trailed off, tears welling in her eyes. "It's okay," Kate said quickly. "You don't have to say it. Guardian tried to save him. He bit one of the bad men, the one with the snake on his hand." "A snake? Like a tattoo?" Lily nodded. "A snake eating its tail. Guardian bit that hand, and the man screamed. Then another man hit Guardian with something hard. Again and again. They thought he was dead, but he wasn't. When they left, he tried to wake his person, but couldn't. So he ran to find help." Kate's mind reeled. A police detective murdered over mysterious papers. A dog left for dead. Men with distinctive tattoos. It sounded like something from a crime show, not their quiet rural community. "How do you know all this, Lily? How can you understand what Guardian is thinking?" Lily's eyes grew heavy with approaching sleep. "Since the accident, when Grandma and Grandpa went to heaven, I was alone in the dark for so long, but I could hear Grandma's cat meowing outside the car. I couldn't talk to people anymore. The words wouldn't come, but I could hear what animals were thinking. Not like talking, like feelings and pictures." Kate brushed the hair from her daughter's forehead, remembering how Lily had spent the days after the accident staring silently at her grandparents' cat, as if having a private conversation. "Why didn't you tell us?" "I tried," Lily murmured, her voice fading as sleep began to claim her. "But the words wouldn't come out right, until Guardian. He thinks almost like people, with words and everything." Within moments, Lily was asleep, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Kate sat beside her, trying to process everything she'd heard. It was fantastical, impossible, yet she had seen with her own eyes how Guardian responded to Lily, how her previously mute daughter spoke to the dog as if they shared a private language. And someone had tried to kill them this morning. That had been terrifyingly real. Kate crept downstairs to call the police, using Dr. Winters' landline instead of her cell phone. Remembering Lily's warning about them listening to phones, she felt paranoid but unwilling to take chances. Officer Ryan Martinez arrived 20 minutes later. He was young, but carried himself with the confident alertness of someone who took his job seriously. "Mrs. Morgan, I understand you were involved in a road incident this morning." Kate led him to the kitchen, away from the makeshift operating room, where Dr. Winters and Tom were still working on Guardian. "It wasn't an incident," Kate said firmly. "Someone tried to run us off the road, the same someone who attempted to break into our house last night." Officer Martinez frowned. "And you believe this is connected to a dog you found on your property?" "I know how it sounds," Kate said, "but yes, we found an injured German Shepherd last night during the storm. My daughter says he belonged to Detective Harper." The officer's expression changed from skeptical to alert. "Detective James Harper, the canine officer who was murdered?" "Yes. His dog went missing after the murder, right? Well, we found him, with 2 broken legs, knife wounds, and rope burns around his neck. Someone tortured that dog and left him for dead." Officer Martinez pulled out his notepad. "Mrs. Morgan, this could be extremely important. Detective Harper's murder is still unsolved. If his canine partner is alive and was present during the murder, my daughter says Guardian, that's the dog's name, witnessed everything. She says 3 men killed Detective Harper while looking for important papers, and one of them had a distinctive tattoo, a snake eating its tail." Martinez looked up sharply. "An Ouroboros? Are you certain?" "That's what my daughter described. Why? Do you recognize it?" The officer closed his notepad. "There's a drug trafficking organization that's been moving into rural counties across the state. Several of their known members have Ouroboros tattoos. It's their calling card. We've suspected they might be connected to Detective Harper's murder, but had no proof." "Well, now you have a witness," Kate said. "Or you will, once Dr. Winters finishes operating on him." Officer Martinez's radio crackled. He stepped away to respond, then returned with a grim expression. "Mrs. Morgan, I need to place you and your family under police protection immediately." That was the station. "Officer Daniels, the patrol officer who pursued the sedan that ran you off the road, has been found unconscious in a ditch outside of town. His vehicle is missing." Kate's hand flew to her mouth. "Lily mentioned Officer Daniels. She said Guardian knew him." "Daniels was Harper's partner before Harper got promoted to detective," Martinez explained. "He would definitely know Harper's canine. Mrs. Morgan, whoever is after this dog is extremely dangerous. They've now attacked a police officer. What do we do? I'm calling for backup. Until then, we lock down this house. No one comes in or out." Just as Martinez reached for his radio again, the lights throughout the house flickered, then went out. "Power cut," Martinez muttered, unholstering his weapon. "Could be coincidence with last night's storm, or—" The sound of breaking glass from the back of the house answered his unfinished question. "Basement," he ordered Kate. "Now, get your family and go." Kate raced to the surgery room, where Tom and Dr. Winters were working by emergency lighting. "Someone's breaking in," she hissed. "The police are here, but we need to hide. Where's the basement entrance?" Dr. Winters pointed to a door near her supply cabinets. "Through there. Tom, we can't move him yet. The leg is still open." "Finish," Tom said grimly. "I'll help Kate get Lily." Kate and Tom rushed upstairs to find Lily already awake, sitting upright in bed. "They're here," she said calmly. "Guardian told me. 3 men. One has a hurt hand, the one he bit." Tom scooped Lily into his arms. "We're going to play a hiding game, Pumpkin. Very quietly, okay?" They crept back downstairs, hearing Officer Martinez's voice from the front of the house. "Police, drop your weapons." The response was a burst of gunfire that sent them ducking behind the staircase. "The basement," Kate whispered. "Quick!" They made it to the surgery room just as Dr. Winters was finishing Guardian's cast. The dog was still unconscious, IV fluids running into his foreleg. "We need to move him," Tom said urgently. "If we disconnect everything now, he could die," Dr. Winters protested. More gunshots echoed from the front of the house, followed by the sound of breaking furniture. "We don't have a choice," Kate said. "They'll kill him, and us, if they find us." Working quickly, Tom and Dr. Winters disconnected Guardian's IV, but left the catheter in place. They lifted the unconscious dog onto a rolling cart and wheeled him toward the basement door, which Kate held open. The basement was finished but cluttered with storage boxes and old furniture. Dr. Winters led them to a small room at the back. "My tornado shelter," she explained, pulling open a heavy door built into the concrete wall. "Get inside." The shelter was about 8 feet square, with shelves of emergency supplies along one wall and a small chemical toilet in the corner. They laid Guardian on a stack of blankets in the center of the room. "He's going to wake up in terrible pain," Dr. Winters warned, reconnecting a portable IV bag to Guardian's catheter. "And I couldn't finish setting his left leg properly." "Will he live?" Lily asked, kneeling beside the dog. "If we can keep him stable and get him proper care soon, yes." From above came the sound of heavy footsteps and men's voices, then silence. "They're searching the house," Tom whispered. "Where's the officer who was with you?" "Upstairs," Kate replied, her voice trembling. "He told us to run." Minutes passed in tense silence. Guardian's breathing remained steady, but his legs twitched occasionally, as if he were dreaming. Lily sat with his head in her lap, stroking his ears and whispering too quietly for the adults to hear. Suddenly, Guardian's eyes snapped open. Before anyone could react, he struggled to his feet, swaying dangerously on his newly cast legs. "Guardian, no!" Lily cried. "Your legs aren't fixed yet." But the dog was focused intently on the shelter door, a low growl building in his throat. His ears pressed flat against his head, and despite his weakened state, he positioned himself between the door and Lily. Footsteps approached outside. The doorknob turned slowly. Guardian's growl deepened, the sound vibrating through the small space. Tom moved to stand beside the dog, placing himself in front of Kate and Lily. Dr. Winters grabbed a heavy flashlight from a shelf, clutching it like a weapon. The door swung open. "Mrs. Morgan?" Officer Martinez stood in the doorway, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "Are you all okay in there?" Kate nearly collapsed with relief. "Yes, what happened?" "They're gone for now. One of them is wounded, shot in the shoulder. I've called for backup, but with the storm damage from last night, response times are slow. We need to move you to a safer location." As they prepared to leave the shelter, Lily tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Guardian says we can't trust him," she whispered. "He smells wrong." Kate frowned, looking back at Officer Martinez. The young policeman was checking his weapon, seemingly unaware of their conversation. "What do you mean, honey? That's the officer who has been helping us. Guardian says he smells like the bad men, like cigarettes and a special cologne. The men who hurt his person wore it." Kate's heart began to race. She caught Tom's eye and tilted her head slightly toward Martinez. Tom gave a nearly imperceptible nod of understanding. "Officer," Tom said, his voice casual, "where will you be taking us?" "Safe house on the edge of town," Martinez replied, not looking up from his weapon. "Chief Wallace's orders." Dr. Winters, who had been checking Guardian's IV, suddenly straightened. "Chief Wallace is on vacation in Florida, has been for 2 weeks. Who are you?" Martinez's expression hardened. In one fluid motion, he raised his gun and pointed it at them. "Nobody move. The dog comes with me. The rest of you stay here." Guardian, despite his injuries and the anesthesia still clouding his system, lunged forward with a snarl. Martinez fired, the shot going wide as Guardian's weight hit his legs. The fake officer crashed backward, his head striking the concrete floor with a sickening crack. Tom leapt forward, kicking the gun away and checking Martinez's pulse. "He's unconscious but alive," he reported grimly. "Lily was right. He's not a real cop." Dr. Winters grabbed her phone. "I'm calling 911, the real 911. While she made the call, Kate examined Guardian. The effort of attacking Martinez had torn open his surgical wounds, blood seeping through the fresh bandages. "He saved us," she whispered, applying pressure to stem the bleeding. "Again!" "He says it's his job," Lily said, tears streaming down her face as she held Guardian's head. "He promised his person he would always protect people, even after his person went to heaven." Guardian's amber eyes, clouded with pain but aware, met Kate's. In that moment, she felt what Lily had been experiencing all along, a connection that transcended ordinary understanding. This wasn't just an animal. This was a soul with purpose and intelligence that somehow, incredibly, her traumatized daughter could access. "Thank you," Kate whispered to the dog. "We'll protect you now, I promise." Guardian's tail thumped once against the floor, before his eyes drifted closed again, exhaustion and pain overtaking him. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The long night was finally ending, but Kate knew their ordeal was far from over. Whoever wanted Guardian silenced was still out there, and now they knew exactly where to find him. As if reading her thoughts, Lily looked up from Guardian's still form. "They'll come back," she said quietly, "with more bad men. Guardian says we have to find the papers his person hid, It's the only way to make them stop. What papers, Lily? Where are they? The little girl closed her eyes, as if listening to something only she could hear. Guardian doesn't know exactly, but he knows who does. We have to find Officer Daniels, the real one. Guardian says he knows where his person hid things. Tom and Kate exchange looks over their daughter's head. Finding an injured police officer, protecting a wounded dog, evading murderous drug traffickers, all while keeping their traumatized daughter safe. It seemed impossible. Yet something had brought Guardian to their farm that stormy night. Something had reawakened Lily's voice. And something stronger than coincidence had forged a bond between a wounded child and a broken dog that neither bullets nor broken bones could sever. For now, that would have to be enough. What was Guardian trying to tell Lily about the mysterious papers? And why was this little girl the only one who could hear him? The next few hours passed in a blur of police sirens, questioning, and medical attention. The real Officer Martinez, not the imposter who had attacked them, arrived with backup and secured Dr. Winter's home. The fake officer was taken into custody, still unconscious from his fall. Guardian had been moved to the local veterinary hospital under police guard. Dr. Winters insisted on overseeing his care personally, refusing to leave his side despite her exhaustion. The dog's condition had stabilized, but he remained critical, his newly repaired legs now supported by proper casts and surgical pins. Kate, Tom, and Lily sat in a small conference room at the police station, mugs of untouched coffee and hot chocolate growing cold on the table before them. Lily had fallen into an exhausted sleep on Kate's lap, her small face finally peaceful after hours of worry about Guardian. The door opened, and a tall man with salt and pepper hair entered. His face was lined with fatigue, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Mr. and Mrs. Morgan, I'm Detective Wilson. I'm heading the investigation into James Harper's murder." He glanced at the sleeping Lily. "And I understand your daughter has some unusual information about the case." Tom straightened in his chair. "Our daughter has been through a traumatic night. She needs rest, not interrogation." "I understand completely," Wilson said, holding up a placating hand. "But time is critical. Officer Daniels was found an hour ago. He's alive but in critical condition. Before he lost consciousness, he mentioned Harper's dog and something about documents. We need to know what your daughter knows." Kate stroked Lily's hair. "She says Guardian, the dog, communicates with her, mentally. Since her accident last year, she's been able to hear animals' thoughts, I guess you could say, especially Guardian's." To his credit, Detective Wilson didn't immediately dismiss this. He sat down across from them, his expression thoughtful. "The canine unit has always claimed their dogs have almost supernatural abilities," he said quietly. Harper himself was conducting research on enhanced cognitive communication between handlers and their dogs. Most of us thought it was just a hobby, but what? Tom prompted. "But 3 weeks before his murder, Harper came to me, said he had discovered something during his research. Something about his dog that would change everything. He was excited but secretive. Then before he could tell me more, he was killed." Wilson leaned forward. "And now his dog shows up at your farm, forms a connection with your daughter, who supposedly can communicate with animals, and people are trying to kill you all. It can't be coincidence." Kate felt Lily stir in her arms. The little girl's eyes fluttered open, immediately alert. "Guardian is hurting," she announced without preamble. "The doctor lady has helped, but he's still really scared." Wilson glanced at Kate, who nodded slightly. The detective turned to Lily. "Hello, Lily. My name is Detective Wilson. I was a friend of the police officer who took care of Guardian before." Lily studied him intently. "Guardian doesn't know you very well, but he says you smell okay." A brief smile flickered across Wilson's tired face. "I'll take that as a compliment. Lily, can you tell me what Guardian has told you about Detective Harper? About what happened to him?" Lily's face grew solemn. "The bad men came to his house at night, 3 of them. Guardian was sleeping in his special bed, but he woke up when he heard voices getting loud. His person was arguing with the men about some papers, important papers with names on them." "What kind of papers, Lily? Did Guardian see them?" "Lists of names, and maps, and pictures of men with the snake tattoos." Lily frowned in concentration. His person had been watching the snake men for a long time. He knew they were bringing bad medicine into town. "Drugs," Wilson translated softly for Tom and Kate. "Harper was investigating a drug trafficking ring." The men wanted the papers, but Guardian's person wouldn't give them. He had hidden them. The men got really mad. Lily's voice faltered. They hurt him. Really bad. Guardian tried to save him. He bit the snake man's hand, but another man hit Guardian with something heavy. Again and again. Tears streamed down Lily's face now. Kate held her closer, shooting a warning look at Wilson, but the detective simply waited, his expression gentle. When Guardian woke up, his person was gone, not breathing anymore. Guardian tried to follow the bad men, but his legs hurt too much. So he tried to find the other police person, Officer Daniels, but he couldn't find him, so he ran away and hid. He knew the bad men would come back to look for the papers. Did Guardian know where Harper hid these papers? Wilson asked. Lily shook her head. Not exactly, but he knows there's a special place. His person would take him to a cabin sometimes, with a big tree that had a hole in it. Guardian thinks that's where the papers might be. Wilson sat back, his expression suddenly alert. A cabin with a hollow tree. Harper had a fishing cabin up at Lakewood. I've been there a few times. There was a big old oak with a hollow trunk near the dock. Guardian says that's it, Lily said excitedly. And he says we need to hurry. The snake men know about the cabin too. They've been looking for the papers there, but they haven't found the right tree yet. Wilson stood abruptly. I need to get a team out there immediately. He looked at Tom and Kate. You three should stay here under protection until we secure the evidence. No, Lily said firmly. Guardian says we have to come too. The papers are hidden in a special way. He needs to show me where. Absolutely not, Tom said. It's too dangerous. They'll be expecting police if this, Wilson said thoughtfully, but not a family with a little girl. And if Harper did hide the evidence using some system only his dog would understand. You can't seriously be considering this, Kate protested. These people have already tried to kill us twice. Which is why you will be safer with me and my team than waiting here, Wilson argued. The fake officer who attacked you had a county sheriff's ID. We don't know how deep this goes or who we can trust. Right now, keeping you with me might be the safest option. A gentle knock on the door interrupted them. A young officer poked his head in. Detective Wilson, sorry to interrupt, but there's been an incident at the veterinary hospital. Someone tried to break in. The officers on scene apprehended one suspect, but there might have been others. Guardian, Lily cried, jumping up from Kate's lap. We need to get him. Is the dog secure? Wilson asked the officer sharply. Yes, sir. They've moved him to a secure room at the back of the facility with double guards. Wilson turned to the Morgans. We need to move quickly. If they're making a play for the dog, they must be getting desperate. The cabin is about an hour north of here. We'll stop for the dog on the way. He should be stable enough to travel by now, according to the last update from Dr. Winters. This is insane, Tom muttered, rubbing his face. We're putting our daughter in danger. We're already in danger, Kate said quietly. At least this way, we have a chance of ending it. Within the hour, they were in a convoy of unmarked police vehicles heading north. Guardian had been carefully transferred to a special canine transport crate in the back of an SUV, with Lily sitting beside him. Despite Dr. Winters' protests, Guardian had seemed eager to leave, his amber eyes alert despite the pain medication. Dr. Winters had insisted on accompanying them to monitor Guardian's condition. Besides, she'd added grimly, they've seen my face now. I'm safer with you than at home. As they drove through the countryside, the landscape gradually changed from farmland to forest. Rain began to fall again, light at first, then heavier as they climbed into higher elevation. How much further? Kate asked, watching the dense trees flash by outside the window. About 20 minutes, Wilson replied from the driver's seat. The cabin is remote, only accessible by a single dirt road. Perfect for hiding, but also a perfect trap. In the back, Lily had her hand through the bars of Guardian's crate, her fingers buried in his fur. The dog's eyes were half closed, but his ears remained perked, swiveling to catch every sound. He says we're getting close, Lily announced suddenly. He recognizes the smells. Wilson glanced in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. We'll approach carefully. Our team will secure the perimeter before you go anywhere near that cabin. The dirt road was slick with mud, the SUV's tires struggling for traction as they made the final approach. Wilson cut the headlights as they neared, relying on the faint moonlight filtering through the clouds. No other vehicles, he murmured, scanning the area. That's something, at least. The cabin was small and weathered, barely visible through the trees. Wilson parked 100 yards away, the other two police vehicles pulling up behind them. "Stay here," he ordered, checking his weapon. "My team will clear the cabin first." While the officers disappeared into the darkness, Kate turned to check on Lily and Guardian. What she saw made her heart stop. The crate door was open, and both Lily and Guardian were gone. The rear door of the SUV stood slightly ajar. "Tom!" she gasped, grabbing her husband's arm. "They're gone!" Tom spun around, his face draining of color. "When? How did we not notice?" Dr. Winters looked equally shocked. The sedative should have kept Guardian barely conscious, let alone able to walk. Kate was already scrambling out of the vehicle, her eyes desperately scanning the darkness. "Lily!" she called in a harsh whisper. "Lily, where are you?" A flash of movement caught her eye, a small yellow raincoat moving between the trees, heading not toward the cabin, but around it, toward the lake. Beside the small figure loped a larger shadow, moving with a stiff but determined gait. "There," Kate pointed, already running. Tom and Dr. Winters followed close behind. They caught up to Lily and Guardian at the edge of a small clearing near the lake shore. A massive oak tree stood alone, its gnarled trunk split near the base to form a hollow, large enough for a child to climb inside. Guardian stood before the tree, his stance rigid despite his casted legs. Lily had her hand on his head, her expression intense as if listening to complex instructions. "Lily Morgan," Kate hissed, grabbing her daughter's shoulder. "What were you thinking running off like that?" "Guardian said we have to hurry," Lily replied, not taking her eyes off the tree. "The bad men are coming. They figured it out too." "What are you talking about?" Tom asked, looking around nervously. Detective Wilson cleared the area. "Not yet," Lily said, "but soon. Guardian can smell them. They're driving here now." She pointed to the hollow tree. "The papers are inside, but there's a special way to get them. Guardian's person made a secret spot that only Guardian knows about." Before Kate could stop her, Lily ducked down and crawled into the hollow trunk. Guardian whined anxiously, trying to follow despite his injuries. "Lily, come out of there, right now!" Kate demanded, dropping to her knees to peer into the dark hollow. But Lily had already disappeared into the gloom of the tree's interior. They could hear her moving around, her voice echoing strangely as she spoke to herself, or to Guardian through whatever connection they shared. "She shouldn't be able to fit that far inside," Tom said, trying to see past Kate. "That trunk isn't that deep." A moment later, Lily's voice called out triumphantly, "Found it! There's a hidden door in the bottom of the tree. Guardian says to press the knot that looks like his paw print." More shuffling sounds followed, then a muffled thud. Lily reappeared, clutching a waterproof document case. "Got it," she exclaimed, squeezing back out of the hollow. "Quick, we need to—" Guardian suddenly stiffened, a low growl building in his chest. His hackles rose as he turned to face the forest beyond the clearing. "They're here," Lily whispered, her face pale in the moonlight. "The snake men." As if summoned by her words, headlights appeared through the trees, bouncing along the rough road toward the cabin. Not the police returning, but new vehicles approaching quickly. "We need to get back to Detective Wilson," Tom said urgently, taking the document case from Lily and tucking it inside his jacket. "Too late," Dr. Winters said, pointing toward the cabin where flashlight beams were now visible, moving erratically, as if there was a struggle underway. The sharp crack of gunfire echoed across the lake. "The police are pinned down," Tom realized. "We're cut off." Guardian nudged Lily's hand, then began limping purposefully along the lakeshore, away from both the cabin and the approaching vehicles. "He knows another way," Lily said, following the dog without hesitation. "Through the woods, there's an old ranger station." Kate and Tom exchanged desperate looks, then followed their daughter and the injured dog into the darkness of the forest. Dr. Winters brought up the rear, occasionally glancing behind them for signs of pursuit. Guardian led them along what appeared to be a game trail, barely visible in the dim moonlight. Despite his injuries and the rough terrain, the dog moved with surprising speed, stopping occasionally to let them catch up or to listen for sounds of pursuit. They had been walking for perhaps 15 minutes when Guardian suddenly froze, his ears pricked forward. From somewhere ahead came the sound of a vehicle engine. "Someone's at the ranger station," Kate whispered, pulling Lily close. Guardian growled softly, then changed direction, leading them on a more circuitous route through denser underbrush. The going was slower now, branches catching at their clothes and scratching their faces in the darkness. Lily stumbled, crying out as she fell to her knees. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet forest. "Shh," Tom cautioned, helping her up. "We need to be very quiet, Pumpkin." But it was too late. From behind them came the crack of branches and the beam of a flashlight sweeping through the trees. "There! I see movement!" a man's voice called. "This way!" "Run!" Kate urged, pushing Lily ahead. "Follow Guardian!" They crashed through the underbrush, all attempts at stealth abandoned. Guardian, despite his broken legs, somehow found the strength to increase his pace, leading them toward what appeared to be a clearing ahead. As they burst from the trees, Kate's heart sank. They stood on the edge of a steep embankment, the dark water of the lake about 20 feet below. They were trapped. Guardian limped to the edge, then looked back at Lily meaningfully. "He says we have to jump," Lily said, her voice trembling. "There's no other way." "That's crazy," Tom protested. "The water's too cold, and we don't know how deep it is, and Guardian can't swim with those casts." "He says his casts are waterproof. Dr. Winters used the special kind, and he can swim with just his front legs." Lily looked at her parents pleadingly. "Please, they're almost here." As if to emphasize her point, a flashlight beam cut through the trees behind them, followed by shouts of discovery. "There they are! Get them before they jump!" Dr. Winters made the decision for all of them, grabbing Lily's hand. "Count of 3, we all jump together. Guardian knows what he's doing." Before Kate or Tom could object, Dr. Winters counted rapidly. 1, 2, 3. With Lily's hand firmly in hers, the veterinarian leapt off the embankment. Lily followed, dragged by the momentum. Guardian, with a trust that defied his injuries, jumped immediately after her. Kate and Tom, left with no choice, clasped hands and jumped together, just as the first pursuer broke through the tree line. The shock of the cold water drove the breath from Kate's lungs. She surfaced, gasping, to find Tom already pulling Lily toward him. Guardian was paddling nearby, his front legs working powerfully, while his casted back legs trailed behind him. "Swim along the shoreline," Dr. Winters called softly, already moving away from the embankment. "Stay in the shadows." Above them, angry voices and flashlight beams probed the water's surface. "I can't see them," someone shouted. "Did they go under?" "Spread out along the shore. They can't have gotten far." The small group swam silently parallel to the shore, staying close to overhanging branches that provided some cover from the searchers above. Guardian led the way, his determination evident in every powerful stroke of his front legs. After what seemed like hours, but was probably only minutes, Dr. Winters guided them toward a small cove where tall reeds grew thickly. "In here," she whispered, "we can hide until they move on." They pushed through the reeds to find a tiny patch of muddy ground, barely large enough for all of them to crouch upon. Guardian dragged himself out of the water, his energy finally flagging as the strain on his injuries took its toll. He collapsed on the mud, panting heavily. "He's bleeding again," Dr. Winters said with professional calm, examining the dog's legs where the waterlogged bandages were now stained red. "We need to get him warm and dry soon." Lily knelt beside Guardian, her small hands gentle on his wet fur. "You were so brave," she whispered. "Just rest now. I'll protect you for a change." Tom pulled the document case from inside his jacket. Miraculously, it had remained sealed and dry during their plunge. "What exactly is in here that's worth killing for?" he muttered, examining the lock mechanism. "We should wait for the police before opening it," Kate cautioned, wringing water from her hair. "It's evidence." Distant shouts indicated their pursuers were still searching, but moving away from their hiding place. Guardian's ears twitched at each sound, but he seemed confident they weren't in immediate danger. "Guardian says the papers show who the snake men really are," Lily said, still stroking the dog's head. "His person was going to arrest the most important snake man of all, someone everyone trusts." Kate frowned. "What do you mean, honey? Who is it?" Lily closed her eyes, as if concentrating on Guardian's silent communication. "Someone with a badge, someone who gives orders to the police." Tom and Kate exchanged alarmed glances. "A police officer? Or someone higher up?" Before Lily could answer, Guardian's head shot up, his ears pricked forward. A moment later, they all heard it, the distinctive wail of police sirens in the distance. "Back up," Tom said with relief. "Wilson must have called for reinforcements." "But how will they find us?" Kate worried, peering through the reeds toward the forest. Guardian struggled to his feet, wobbling dangerously on his injured legs. "No, boy," Dr. Winters said firmly, trying to ease him back down. "You've done enough. You need to rest." But Guardian was insistent, nudging Lily with his nose. "He wants to help them find us," Lily explained, "but he needs my help to get back up the hill." "Absolutely not," Tom said. "It's too dangerous. Those men are still out there." Guardian whined, looking at each of them in turn with an intelligence that was impossible to dismiss. "Guardian says the sirens scared the bad men away," Lily insisted, "but the police won't find us unless we signal them, and he can make a signal they'll understand." Dr. Winters studied the dog thoughtfully. Canine units are trained to respond to certain signals. If Guardian could get to higher ground... "I'll go with him," Kate decided suddenly. "Lily stays here with you two. If there's a chance to end this now, we have to take it." Before Tom could object, Kate was already wading back through the reeds, Guardian limping determinedly at her side. The embankment wasn't as steep here, more of a muddy slope leading back up to the forest. "Come on, boy," Kate encouraged as Guardian struggled up the incline, his broken legs making the climb agonizing. "Just a little further." At the top, Guardian paused to catch his breath, then looked at Kate expectantly. "What now?" she asked, feeling foolish for speaking to a dog as if he could answer. Guardian limped to a clearing where moonlight broke through the clouds. Then, gathering himself, he raised his head and let out a howl, a long, haunting sound that seemed to carry for miles across the lake. He howled 3 times, then waited, ears forward, listening. In the distance, the sirens changed direction, moving closer to their location. "They heard you," Kate whispered in amazement. "They're coming!" Guardian allowed himself to collapse then, his strength finally spent. Kate knelt beside him, cradling his head in her lap as they waited for rescue. 20 minutes later, flashlight beams cut through the trees, but these belonged to the police, led by a limping but determined Detective Wilson. "Mrs. Morgan," he called, rushing forward. "Thank God, where are the others?" "Down by the water," Kate replied, nodding toward the lake. "We have the documents, Detective, the ones Harper hid." Wilson's face broke into a grim smile. "Then this nightmare might finally be over. We've arrested 3 suspects near the cabin, including one with a distinctive snake tattoo on his hand." As more officers arrived to help Tom, Lily, and Dr. Winters up from the lakeshore, Wilson knelt beside Guardian, gently touching the dog's head. "You did it, old friend," he said softly. "Harper would be proud." Guardian's tail thumped weakly against the ground, his eyes already drifting closed with exhaustion. But Kate didn't miss the way the dog's gaze sought out Lily as she emerged from the reeds, as if making sure his special charge was safe. The next few hours passed in a blur as they were transported to the nearest hospital for examination. Guardian was rushed to an emergency veterinary facility with Dr. Winters accompanying him. The document case was taken into evidence, Detective Wilson refusing to let it out of his sight. It wasn't until the following afternoon, as the Morgan family sat in a hospital room waiting for Lily to be discharged, that they learned the truth. Wilson entered, looking haggard but satisfied. "The papers you recovered have blown the case wide open," he announced without preamble. Harper had gathered evidence linking County Commissioner Richards to a major drug trafficking operation. Financial records, photographs, witness statements, everything needed for an airtight case. "Commissioner Richards?" Tom repeated in disbelief. "He's been in office for 20 years, and using his position to facilitate drug movement through the county for at least 10 of those years," Wilson confirmed. "The organization has been bribing local officials across 3 states. Harper stumbled onto it while investigating overdose deaths in rural communities." "Is it over?" Kate asked, instinctively drawing Lily closer. "Are we safe now?" Wilson nodded. "Richards was arrested an hour ago, along with several other officials. The organization is falling apart as members scramble to make deals. Your family will need to testify eventually, but the immediate danger has passed." "And Guardian?" Lily asked, the only question that truly mattered to her. "Is he okay?" For the first time, Wilson smiled genuinely. "That dog is tougher than anyone gave him credit for. Dr. Winters says he'll need several more surgeries and months of rehabilitation, but he should make a full recovery." "What will happen to him?" Kate asked. "After he recovers?" Wilson looked at Lily, then back to Kate and Tom. "Well, normally a canine officer of Guardian's caliber would be reassigned to a new handler, but in this case," he hesitated. "Given the unique circumstances and the bond he's formed with your daughter, the department is open to a special arrangement, if you're interested." Lily's face lit up with hope. "Can Guardian come live with us, please?" Tom and Kate exchanged a look, a silent conversation between parents weighing a major decision. Finally, Tom smiled. "I think," he said slowly, "that Guardian has earned his retirement and our family could use a good protector." The joy on Lily's face was answer enough. 3 days later, they brought Guardian home to the farmhouse. His legs were in fresh casts, and he was still weak from surgery, but his amber eyes were bright and alert as he surveyed his new home from the back of their SUV. With Tom's help, they carried him inside and settled him on a special orthopedic bed in the living room. Lily immediately sat beside him, his large head resting contentedly in her lap. "You know," Kate said, watching them together, "we still don't understand how Lily can communicate with him. The doctors have no explanation for it." Tom slipped his arm around her waist. "Maybe some things aren't meant to be explained. Maybe sometimes a wounded soul just needs to find another who speaks the same silent language." As if to confirm this, Guardian looked up at Lily and licked her cheek, causing the little girl to giggle, a sound they hadn't heard since the accident that took her grandparents. Whatever mysterious connection had formed between them, it had healed more than just Guardian's broken legs. It had given Lily back her voice, and Guardian a new purpose. Two broken beings who had somehow made each other whole again. Who do you think was the most brave in this story so far? Little Lily or Guardian? And what would you have done if you were Kate and Tom? The weeks that followed brought a new rhythm to life at the Morgan farmhouse. Guardian's recovery became the center around which their days revolved. Morning medication, bandage changes, physical therapy exercises, afternoon rest, evening walks that grew longer as his strength returned. Through it all, Lily remained his constant companion and interpreter. Dr. Winters visited 3 times a week to check Guardian's progress, marveling at how quickly he was healing. "His recovery is remarkable," she told Kate one afternoon as they watched Lily guide Guardian through his exercises in the backyard. "Most dogs with injuries this severe would take twice as long to reach this stage." "It's Lily," Kate said, smiling as her daughter patiently coaxed Guardian to put weight on his healing back leg. "She never lets him give up. And somehow, he understands exactly what she wants from him." The bond between child and dog had only deepened since they'd brought Guardian home. Lily, who had been virtually mute for nearly a year following the accident, now chattered constantly, to Guardian directly, and increasingly to her parents as well. It was as if a dam had broken, releasing not just her voice but her entire personality from whatever trauma had locked it away. Kate's phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Tom, calling from the hospital where he had returned to work part-time. "How are the patient and his nurse doing?" he asked, his voice warm with amusement. "Guardian just walked 10 steps without his support sling," Kate reported, "and Lily hasn't stopped talking about it for the past hour." Tom's laugh was tinged with wonder. "Sometimes I still can't believe the change in her. It's like we got our daughter back overnight." "Dr. Bennett called earlier," Kate said, referring to Lily's child psychologist. "She wants to include Guardian in Lily's next session. She thinks there might be therapeutic value in understanding their connection." "What do you think?" Tom asked. Kate watched as Lily bent close to Guardian's ear, whispering something that made the dog's tail wag vigorously. "I think our daughter can talk to animals, or at least to Guardian, and I think I don't care why or how, as long as she keeps smiling like that." Dr. Bennett arrived the following Tuesday, her gentle demeanor putting even Guardian at ease as she settled in the living room with Lily. Kate had offered to leave them alone, but the psychologist had suggested she stay, sitting quietly in the corner with her crochet work. "So, Lily," Dr. Bennett began, "your mom tells me you and Guardian have a special way of talking to each other." Lily nodded, her hand resting comfortably on Guardian's head where he lay beside her on the couch. "I hear him in my head. Not like regular talking with words, more like feelings and pictures, but really clear." "And when did this start? With Guardian specifically, I mean." "The night we found him in the storm," Lily said without hesitation. "But I could hear animals a little bit before that, too, since the accident with Grandma and Grandpa." Dr. Bennett nodded encouragingly. "Can you tell me about that? About being in the car after the accident?" Lily's expression clouded, and Guardian immediately shifted closer to her, resting his head on her knee. The gesture seemed to give her strength. "It was really dark," she began softly, "and quiet. Grandma and Grandpa weren't talking anymore. I tried to wake them up, but they wouldn't move. I was scared. My leg hurt really bad where it was stuck." Kate felt tears pricking her eyes, remembering the horrific night when her parents' car had been struck by a drunk driver. By the time emergency services reached the remote accident site, her parents had been dead for nearly an hour, with Lily trapped in the back seat, conscious but unresponsive. I called and called for help, Lily continued, but nobody came for a long time. Then I heard Grandma's cat, Pepper. He was in his carrier. The crash made it open, and he got out. He was scared too. You heard Pepper? Dr. Bennett asked. You mean you heard him meowing? Lily shook her head. I heard him in my head. He was scared and hurt and looking for Grandma. I told him Grandma was sleeping and wouldn't wake up. He came and sat with me until the loud people came to get us out. The paramedics, Dr. Bennett clarified. Yeah, after that I could hear animals sometimes. Not all the time, and not all animals. Just some, and not as clear as Guardian. Lily stroked the dog's ear thoughtfully. Guardian thinks it's because his person, Detective Harper, was teaching him to talk with his mind. That's why Guardian's so good at it. Dr. Bennett didn't dismiss this explanation, as Kate had feared she might. Instead, she leaned forward with interest. What does Guardian tell you about his training with Detective Harper? They did special games. Guardian had to guess which hand had a treat without seeing it, or find things just by thinking about them. His person said Guardian was special. He could do things other dogs couldn't. Kate remembered what Detective Wilson had mentioned about Harper's research into enhanced cognitive communication. At the time, it had seemed like an interesting but ultimately unimportant detail. Now she wondered if there had been more to it. Guardian misses his person a lot, Lily added quietly, but he says he's happy to have a new family now, and he says I need him as much as he needs me. What do you think he means by that? Dr. Bennett asked. Lily was quiet for a moment, her fingers absently tracing patterns in Guardian's fur. I think, after the accident, I was broken inside, like Guardian's legs were broken. We both needed someone to help us heal the broken parts. The simple wisdom of this statement hung in the air. Dr. Bennett glanced at Kate, her expression suggesting that Lily's insight was far beyond her years. And do you think you're healing now, Lily? The psychologist asked gently. Lily nodded. Guardian helps me remember how to be brave, and I help him remember that not all people are like the bad men. She wrapped her arms around the dog's neck. We fix each other. Later, after Dr. Bennett had gone, Kate found Tom in the kitchen preparing dinner. She slipped her arms around his waist from behind, resting her head against his back. Dr. Bennett says what Lily is experiencing is called a trauma bond, she told him. It's uncommon, but not unheard of for children who've experienced severe trauma to form intense connections with animals, usually not to the point of believing they can communicate telepathically, but our daughter isn't usual, Tom finished for her, turning to face Kate. Do you think we should be worried about her believing she can hear Guardian's thoughts? Kate shook her head. Dr. Bennett doesn't think so. She says whatever is happening between them is healing Lily. The selective mutism is completely gone. She's processing the trauma of losing her grandparents. She's confident again. She smiled up at her husband. Honestly, I don't care if it's real telepathy or just a child's imagination. It's working. From the living room came the sound of Lily's laughter, bright and uninhibited, as Guardian apparently did something amusing. It was a sound they had feared they might never hear again after the accident. Then I'm all for it, Tom decided, pulling Kate close. Our daughter has her voice back. That's miracle enough for me. As summer arrived, Guardian's physical recovery progressed to the point where he could accompany Lily on walks around their property without his support harness. His gait still showed signs of stiffness, especially in his left hind leg where the damage had been most severe, but he moved with increasing confidence and strength. The case against Commissioner Richards and the drug trafficking organization continued to build. Kate and Tom had given their formal statements to the prosecution, and Detective Wilson kept them updated on the progress. Lily would eventually need to testify about finding the hidden documents, but Wilson had arranged for her to do so via closed-circuit television, sparing her the trauma of facing the defendants in court. Life was slowly returning to normal, or at least a new version of normal that now included a German shepherd with an uncanny understanding of human speech and a little girl who swore she could hear his thoughts. It was on a warm Tuesday in late June when the danger they had almost forgotten returned. Lily and Guardian were in the backyard, playing their version of fetch, which involved Guardian finding objects Lily claimed to be thinking about, rather than actually throwing anything. Kate was in the kitchen baking cookies, keeping one eye on them through the window. Her phone rang, and she tucked it between her ear and shoulder as she continued measuring flour. Hello? Mrs. Morgan, it's Detective Wilson. His voice was tight with urgency. Where's Lily? Kate's hand stilled on the measuring cup. "In the backyard with Guardian. Why? What's happened?" "Richards made bail an hour ago. His attorney pulled some strings with a friendly judge. He should be under house arrest with an ankle monitor, but he never arrived at his residence. We have reason to believe he's making a run for it, and he might try to tie up loose ends first." The measuring cup clattered to the counter as Kate rushed to the window. Lily and Guardian were still there, the little girl laughing, as Guardian triumphantly presented her with the garden trowel she had apparently been thinking about. "I'm sending a patrol car to your house," Wilson continued, "just as a precaution. It should be there within 15 minutes. Until then, keep Lily and Guardian inside with the doors locked." "We will," Kate promised, already moving toward the back door. "Thank you for the warning." She was halfway across the kitchen when Guardian's posture suddenly changed. The playful dog vanished, replaced by a tense, alert Guardian, his head up and ears forward as he stared at the tree line that bordered their property. A deep growl rumbled in his chest. Kate burst through the back door. "Lily, come inside right now." Lily glanced from her mother to Guardian, then back again. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Without argument, she began running toward the house, Guardian limping rapidly at her side. They were halfway across the yard when a figure emerged from the trees, a tall man in an expensive suit, his normally well-groomed appearance disheveled from what must have been a hasty escape. Kate recognized Commissioner Richards immediately from his television appearances and campaign billboards. "Mrs. Morgan," he called, his voice carrying the same smooth politician's tone that had won him so many elections. "Just the family I was looking for." Guardian positioned himself between Lily and the approaching man, his growl deepening to a threatening snarl. "Get inside, Lily," Kate ordered, her own body blocking the path to the door. "Lock yourself in the bathroom and call Daddy. Use the code word." Lily hesitated only briefly before dashing past Kate into the house. The sound of her footsteps on the stairs was followed by the slam of the bathroom door. Kate faced Richards, her heart pounding, but her voice steady. "The police are on their way. You should leave before they get here." Richards smiled, but the expression didn't reach his cold eyes. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Mrs. Morgan. Not until I've taken care of some unfinished business." His gaze shifted to Guardian, who stood his ground despite his still healing legs. "That dog has caused me quite a lot of trouble, him and his former master." "Guardian is a hero," Kate said, edging toward the door. "And you're a drug dealer who got caught. It's over, Commissioner." Richards' smile vanished. "It's not over until I say it's over." His hand emerged from his jacket pocket, revealing a pistol. "Now, call your daughter back out here. We're going for a little drive." Guardian's snarl became a full-throated bark, the sound echoing across the yard. Richards swung the gun toward the dog. "Shut that mutt up or I'll finish what my men started," he snapped. Kate's mind raced. The patrol car Wilson had promised was still at least 10 minutes away. Tom was at the hospital, a 20-minute drive even if he left immediately after Lily's call. They were on their own. "Please," she said, forcing her voice to remain calm. "There's no need for anyone to get hurt. Just leave now, and you might still make it across the state line before they set up roadblocks." Richards laughed bitterly. "Do you think I haven't thought this through? Your family is my leverage. No one will risk shooting at a car with a child inside." His expression hardened. "Now get the girl, or I start shooting, beginning with the dog." Kate had taken a step toward the house when Guardian made his move. With a speed that belied his injuries, he lunged at Richards, aiming not for the armed hand but for his legs, knocking the man off balance. The gun fired, the bullet striking the ground harmlessly. Guardian didn't bite, but kept his body against Richards' legs, making it impossible for the man to regain his footing. Kate seized the opportunity, grabbing a garden rake that leaned against the house and swinging it at Richards' gun hand. The makeshift weapon connected with a satisfying crack. Richards howled in pain as the gun flew from his grasp, landing in the grass several feet away. Kate rushed to retrieve it, but Richards was quicker, shoving Guardian aside and scrambling toward the weapon. Guardian recovered instantly, clamping his powerful jaws around Richards' ankle. The commissioner screamed, kicking frantically, but the dog held firm, dragging him away from the gun with surprising strength. Kate snatched up the pistol, her hands shaking, but determined as she pointed it at Richards. "Don't move," she ordered, trying to remember what Tom had taught her about the gun they kept in their bedside table for emergencies. "Guardian, hold." The dog maintained his grip on Richards' ankle, ignoring the man's curses and threats. Blood seeped through Richards' expensive trousers, where Guardian's teeth had broken the skin. In the distance, Kate heard the blessed sound of a siren approaching. Relief made her knees weak, but she kept the gun steady, focused on Richards's rage-contorted face. "It's over," she said again, her voice stronger now. "For real this time." The patrol car screeched into their driveway, followed moments later by Tom's SUV. Two officers emerged with weapons drawn, quickly taking control of the situation. Only when Richards was handcuffed and secured in the back of the police car did Kate lower the gun, her hands trembling with delayed shock. Tom rushed to her side, enfolding her in a fierce embrace. "Are you okay? Where's Lily?" "I'm here, Daddy," Lily called, emerging from the house. She must have been watching from the window. She ran to Guardian, who had finally released his hold on Richards and was limping heavily, the exertion clearly having taxed his healing legs. "You were so brave," she whispered, burying her face in his fur. "You saved Mommy." Guardian licked her cheek, then collapsed onto the grass, panting from the effort. One of his back legs was bleeding, where the healing tissue had torn with his sudden movements. "We need to get him to Dr. Winters," Tom said, kneeling to examine the injury. "He's reopened his surgical site." "Is he going to be okay?" Lily asked, tears streaming down her face. Kate crouched beside them, still shaky but determined to comfort her daughter. "Of course he is, honey. Guardian is the toughest dog in the world, and the bravest." "He says he was just doing his job," Lily reported, wiping her eyes, "protecting his family." Kate met Guardian's amber gaze, seeing in it an intelligence and devotion that transcended ordinary animal awareness. Whether Lily truly heard his thoughts or simply understood him on a level most humans never reached with animals, the result was the same, a bond that had saved them all. Dr. Winters was able to repair Guardian's torn stitches that same afternoon. "No permanent damage," she assured them as she finished wrapping his leg in a fresh bandage. "But he needs to take it easy for at least 2 weeks. No heroics." Guardian woofed softly, as if promising to behave. "Guardian says Commissioner Richards smelled afraid," Lily announced from her position beside the examination table. "That's how he knew the bad man would shoot if he got a chance. Afraid people are the most dangerous." Dr. Winters raised an eyebrow at this insight, but didn't question it. She had witnessed enough of Lily and Guardian's unusual communication to simply accept it as their reality. "Your dog is very wise," she said, scratching Guardian behind the ears, "and very brave. He could have seriously re-injured himself with a move like that." "He says Lily is more important than his legs," the little girl translated solemnly. "And so is our whole family." Detective Wilson visited that evening, bringing news that Richards had been returned to custody with additional charges and no possibility of bail. "The prosecutor is confident he'll spend the rest of his life in prison," Wilson reported. "His entire organization is collapsing as we speak. Your testimonies, combined with Harper's evidence, have locked up the case tight." "What about Guardian?" Tom asked. "Will he need to be there when the case goes to trial?" Wilson smiled. "I've arranged for Guardian to be officially classified as a material witness, but not required to appear in court. His documented injuries and your testimonies will be sufficient." He glanced at Lily, who was dozing on the couch with Guardian's head in her lap. "Besides, I think he's earned his retirement." After Wilson left, Kate and Tom sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies begin to illuminate the summer evening. Through the window, they could see Lily and Guardian still on the couch, both now sound asleep. "Do you think she'll always be able to communicate with him?" Tom wondered. "Or is it something she'll outgrow as she gets older?" Kate leaned her head against his shoulder. "I don't know. Dr. Bennett says children often have abilities or perceptions they lose as they become more rational and analytical. But then again, maybe Guardian really is special, like Harper believed." "Either way," Tom said, "they saved each other. And us." Kate nodded, watching a particularly bright firefly dance across their yard, the same yard where hours earlier their lives had hung in the balance. "I keep thinking about what Lily said, about how they were both broken and needed each other to heal. Maybe that's true for all of us," Tom suggested. "Maybe we all need someone who understands our broken parts to help us become whole again." Inside, Guardian opened one eye, gazing out at Kate and Tom through the window. His tail thumped once against the couch cushion, as if in agreement. Then he sighed contentedly and drifted back to sleep, his body curved protectively around Lily, even in rest. The healing bond between them had proven stronger than broken bones, stronger than trauma, stronger even than the men who had tried to silence them. It was a connection forged in pain, but tempered by love, unbreakable, unexplainable, and entirely their own. 6 months later, the Morgan family stood in the county courthouse along with several other families and their dogs. Guardian sat proudly beside Lily, his coat gleaming and his posture perfect despite the slight permanent limp in his left hind leg. He wore a special vest identifying him as a certified therapy dog. "And it is with great pride," announced the county's new commissioner, "that I declare the James Harper Memorial Therapy Dog Program officially open. These specially trained dogs and their handlers will provide comfort and healing to children who have experienced trauma, continuing the groundbreaking work Detective Harper began before his untimely death." Applause filled the room as Guardian and the other therapy dogs were presented with official badges. Lily beamed as she accepted Guardian's badge, carefully pinning it to his vest. "He says his person would be really happy about this," she whispered to Kate, "using dogs to help kids who are scared or hurt inside." Kate squeezed her daughter's shoulder. "I think he's right, and I think Detective Harper would be very proud of Guardian, and of you." As the ceremony concluded, they moved to the reception area, where several children were already interacting with the therapy dogs. Guardian walked patiently beside Lily as she approached a small boy who sat alone in the corner, his eyes downcast and his posture rigid with tension. "This is Guardian," Lily told the boy, kneeling beside him. "He's really good at helping people feel better when they're sad or scared. Do you want to pet him?" The boy looked up cautiously, his eyes widening at the sight of the large German shepherd. Guardian immediately lay down, making himself less intimidating, his head resting on his paws in a posture of gentle invitation. After a moment's hesitation, the boy reached out a trembling hand and lightly touched Guardian's fur. The dog responded with a soft whine of encouragement, inching closer until his head rested against the child's knee. "He likes you," Lily said with a smile. "Guardian says you are very brave." The boy looked startled. "He says?" Lily nodded seriously. "He doesn't talk with words, but if you listen really hard, sometimes you can hear what he's thinking." She leaned closer, as if sharing a secret. "Or you can just look in his eyes. Dogs say a lot with their eyes if you know how to listen." Cautiously, the boy met Guardian's steady gaze. Whatever he saw there made his shoulders relax slightly, the tension easing from his small frame. "See," Lily said, "he already understands you." Kate watched from a distance as the two children bent their heads close to Guardian's, sharing whispers and gentle touches with the dog who had changed their lives in ways they were still discovering. The broken shepherd with the wounded legs had become a healer, guided by the little girl who had somehow found her voice through him. Some bonds, Kate reflected, defied explanation. They simply were, as natural and necessary as breathing, as powerful and enduring as love itself. Have you ever felt a special connection with an animal that seemed to understand you without words? And if Guardian could really talk to us all, what do you think he would say? The weeks leading up to the trial were filled with preparation and anxiety. Despite Detective Wilson's assurances that the case against Commissioner Richards was solid, Kate couldn't help but worry. The commissioner had powerful friends, and the drug trafficking organization he had been involved with had tentacles that reached into unexpected places. "What if they find another corrupt judge?" she asked Tom one night as they sat on the porch, Guardian and Lily playing in the yard before bedtime. "What if they manipulate the jury somehow?" Tom squeezed her hand. "Wilson has made sure everything is being handled by federal prosecutors now. Too many people are watching. Richards can't escape this time." Still, as the trial date approached, security around the Morgan family intensified. Plainclothes officers drove past their farmhouse at regular intervals. Lily's school was briefed on safety protocols. Guardian, ever vigilant, seemed to understand the situation perfectly, rarely letting Lily out of his sight. 2 days before they were scheduled to testify, the prosecutor, Andrea Ramirez, visited their home for a final preparation session. "Lily," she said gently, "do you understand what will happen when you talk to the judge?" Lily nodded solemnly, her hand resting on Guardian's head where he sat beside her chair. "I'll tell the truth about finding Guardian and how he helped us get the papers from the tree." "That's right," Ramirez confirmed. "But there's something else you need to know. The defense attorney, that's the person helping Commissioner Richards, might ask you some questions that seem confusing or might make you uncomfortable." Lily tilted her head. "Like what?" "They might ask you about how you communicate with Guardian. They might suggest that you're making it up, or that you're confused about what really happened." Guardian made a soft rumbling sound, not quite a growl, but clearly a response to the tension in the room. I'm not making it up, Lily said firmly. Guardian really does talk to me, not with words like people, but I know what he's thinking. Ramirez exchanged glances with Kate and Tom. They had all agreed that Lily should tell the truth as she understood it, but they were concerned about how a jury might interpret a child claiming to have telepathic communication with a dog. I believe you, Ramirez said carefully, but some people might find it hard to understand. The important thing is for you to be honest about what you experienced and what you did. The papers you found are real, and that's what matters most for the case. Guardian says not to worry, Lily announced, looking up from the dog's intent gaze. He says the truth is stronger than lies, even when it sounds strange. Ramirez smiled despite herself. Your dog is very wise, Lily. The courtroom was imposing, a cavernous space of polished wood and stern portraits that made even the adults feel small. Lily sat in the witness stand, her feet dangling above the floor, looking tiny and vulnerable against the massive chair. By special arrangement, Guardian was allowed to lie at her feet, his steady presence a comfort as she faced the crowded room. Commissioner Richards sat at the defense table, his expensive suit and confident posture at odds with the handcuffs that bound his wrists. He stared at Lily with undisguised contempt as she was sworn in. Lily, Prosecutor Ramirez began gently, can you tell the court how you first met Guardian? Lily leaned slightly forward to reach the microphone. We found him during a storm. He was hurt really bad, dragging himself across our field with broken legs. And how did you know his name was Guardian? He told me, Lily said simply, in my head. A murmur ran through the courtroom. The defense attorney, a sharp-featured man named Gregory Collins, leaned forward with interest. After you found Guardian, Ramirez continued smoothly, what happened next? Lily recounted the events of that night and the following days, the attempted break-in, the car chase, Guardian's surgery, and eventually the journey to Detective Harper's cabin, where they found the hidden documents. Throughout her testimony, she spoke clearly and confidently, occasionally glancing down at Guardian as if receiving reassurance. Thank you, Lily, Ramirez said when she had finished. You're very brave. She turned to the judge. No further questions, Your Honor. Collins rose, buttoning his suit jacket as he approached the witness stand. Hello, Lily, he said, his voice artificially warm. I just have a few questions for you. Guardian's ears flattened slightly, though he remained silent at Lily's feet. You testified that Guardian told you certain things. Is that correct? Yes, Lily confirmed. But dogs can't talk, can they? Collins asked, his tone becoming condescending. Not with words, Lily explained patiently. They talk with pictures and feelings in your mind. You just have to listen the right way. Several jurors smiled at this, charmed by her earnestness. Collins was not deterred. So, you're saying you can read Guardian's mind? Objection, Ramirez interrupted. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge agreed. Rephrase, counselor. Collins tried another approach. Lily, isn't it possible that instead of Guardian telling you things, you were just guessing or imagining what he might be thinking? Lily considered this seriously. I guess that's what grown-ups might think, but it's not guessing. Guardian knows things I don't know, like about Detective Harper and the papers in the tree. I couldn't have made that up. But isn't it true that you overheard the adults talking about Detective Harper's murder? Maybe you pieced together a story from bits of conversation you heard. Objection, Ramirez called again. He's badgering a child witness. Sustained, the judge said firmly. Mr. Collins, this child is 9 years old. Proceed with care. Collins nodded stiffly. Lily, when you went to Detective Harper's cabin, who actually found the hidden compartment in the tree? Was it you, or was it one of the adults? It was me, Lily said, but only because Guardian showed me where to look and how to open it. There was a special knot in the wood shaped like a paw print. You had to press it just right. And this was something only Guardian knew about? Yes. Detective Harper showed it to him as a secret hiding place. Only Guardian knew how to find it. Collins looked skeptical. So, you're asking this court to believe that a dog not only understood the concept of a hidden compartment, but also managed to communicate its location to you telepathically? Isn't that a bit far-fetched? Guardian chose that moment to rise to his feet, staring directly at Collins with such intensity that the attorney took an involuntary step back. The dog made no aggressive move, but his presence suddenly filled the courtroom. Guardian says you're afraid of dogs, Lily announced, looking puzzled. He can smell the fear on you. Is that why you don't believe he can be smart?" Laughter rippled through the courtroom as Collins flushed. Even the judge seemed to be suppressing a smile. "No further questions," Collins muttered, retreating to the defense table, where Richards glared at him in obvious disappointment. As Lily stepped down from the witness stand, Guardian at her side, Ramirez called her next witness. The prosecution calls Guardian K-9 officer to the stand. This caused another stir in the courtroom. While it was unusual, the judge had approved this special procedure in advance. Guardian was led to the front of the courtroom and positioned near the defendant's table. A court officer brought forward 3 identical metal containers, placing them in a row. "Your Honor," Ramirez explained, "this is a standard scent identification procedure used with Police K-9S. Each container contains a cloth handled by different individuals. One of these cloths was handled by a person present during Detective Harper's murder." Collins jumped to his feet. "Objection! This is highly irregular and completely unreliable." "Your Honor," Ramirez countered, "Guardian was a fully trained police K-9 with over 50 successful identifications during his service. The Supreme Court has recognized the validity of K-9 scent identification when performed under controlled conditions, which these are," the judge considered briefly. "I'll allow it, but the jury will determine what weight to give this demonstration." Lily was asked to handle Guardian for the procedure, since he responded best to her. She led him to the row of containers and whispered something in his ear. Guardian immediately moved forward, sniffing each container methodically. When he reached the center one, he stopped, sat down, and gave a single bark, the standard K-9 alert. "Let the record show," Ramirez announced, "that Guardian has identified the scent sample taken from Commissioner Richards' clothing." "Objection!" Collins shouted again. "This proves nothing. The dog could have been cued by the handler." The judge peered down at Collins. "Your objection is noted, counselor, but I observed the procedure and there was no obvious cueing. The jury will decide the significance." As Lily led Guardian back to their seats, the dog paused next to Richards, looking directly into the man's eyes. Richards flinched visibly, then composed himself, but not before several jurors had noticed his reaction. The trial continued for another week, with testimony from forensic experts, police officers, and financial analysts who traced the money trail from Richards' accounts to known drug traffickers. But according to several jurors who spoke after the verdict, it was the moment when Guardian stared down Richards that convinced them of the commissioner's guilt. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning a unanimous guilty verdict on all counts. Richards was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed around them, cameras flashing and microphones thrust toward Lily and Guardian. "Lily, how does it feel to help put away a dangerous criminal?" one reporter called. Lily looked up at Kate, who nodded encouragingly. "It feels good to stop bad people," Lily said, her hand resting on Guardian's head. "But Guardian did most of the work. He's the real hero." "Do you really believe you can communicate with your dog?" another reporter asked. Lily smiled. "Guardian isn't just my dog, he's my friend. And friends understand each other, don't they?" Guardian woofed softly, as if in agreement, prompting laughter and a fresh round of camera flashes. Detective Wilson pushed through the crowd to escort them to their car. "You were fantastic in there," he told Lily. "Both of you were." "What happens now?" Tom asked as they reached the vehicle. "Richards will be transferred to a federal facility later this week," Wilson explained. "His organization has been completely dismantled. It's really over this time." Kate felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a tension she'd been carrying for so long she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to be without it. "So we can go back to normal life?" Wilson smiled, as normal as life ever is with a telepathic dog and the little girl who can hear him. 6 months later, on a crisp fall morning, Kate stood in the doorway of Lily's classroom, watching with pride as her daughter addressed her classmates. Guardian sat beside her, his posture perfect despite the slight permanent limp in his left hind leg. "This is Guardian," Lily was explaining to the rapt children. "He used to be a police dog, but now he's a therapy dog. That means he helps people who are sad or scared feel better." "How does he do that?" one child asked. "By listening," Lily said simply. "Sometimes when people are really hurt inside, they stop talking. Guardian helps them find their words again." She smiled at her mother across the room. "That's what he did for me after my grandma and grandpa died. I didn't want to talk anymore, but Guardian helped me remember how." The children were fascinated, raising their hands with dozens of questions that Lily answered with patience and surprising insight for a 9-year-old. Guardian remained calm throughout, occasionally responding to a direct question from Lily with a soft whine or a tilt of his head that made the children giggle with delight. After the presentation, Lily's teacher approached Kate in the hallway. "That was remarkable," she said warmly. "Lily has come so far this year. Her confidence, her academic progress, her social skills, the transformation is extraordinary." "Guardian deserves most of the credit," Kate replied, watching as Lily and the dog said goodbye to the students. "They heal each other." "Whatever it is between them," the teacher said, "it's beautiful to witness." Later that afternoon, Kate drove Lily and Guardian to the children's hospital, where they now volunteered twice a week. The pediatric psychiatric ward had initially been skeptical about allowing a dog to interact with their most fragile patients, but Guardian's gentle temperament and uncanny ability to connect with traumatized children had quickly won over even the most doubtful staff members. Today they were scheduled to work with a new patient, a 7-year-old boy named Ethan, who hadn't spoken since witnessing a violent home invasion 3 months earlier. His therapists had tried every conventional approach without success. "Remember," the head psychiatrist cautioned as they prepared to enter Ethan's room, "don't pressure him to speak or interact. Just being in the same space with Guardian might be enough for today." Lily nodded seriously. "Guardian already knows. He says we'll just sit quietly and let Ethan decide when he's ready." The psychiatrist had long since stopped questioning Lily's claims about communicating with Guardian. The results spoke for themselves. Ethan was sitting on his bed when they entered, his back against the wall and his knees drawn up to his chest. He didn't look up or acknowledge their presence. "Hi, Ethan," Lily said softly. "This is Guardian. We're just going to sit here for a while, if that's okay with you." Following some invisible signal from Lily, Guardian settled onto the floor at a non-threatening distance from the bed. Lily sat cross-legged beside him, not looking directly at Ethan, but keeping him in her peripheral vision. For nearly 20 minutes, no one moved or spoke. The psychiatrist, observing through a one-way mirror, was about to suggest they try again another day when something remarkable happened. Ethan slowly lifted his head and looked at Guardian. The dog's ears perked up slightly, but he remained in his relaxed position on the floor. Ethan uncurled himself from his defensive posture and slid off the bed, approaching Guardian with cautious steps. "It's okay," Lily whispered. "He won't hurt you. You can pet him if you want." Ethan knelt beside Guardian and tentatively reached out to touch the dog's fur. Guardian responded with a gentle sigh, leaning slightly into the touch. Encouraged, Ethan began to stroke him more confidently. "He likes when you scratch behind his ears," Lily suggested. Ethan followed her advice, and Guardian closed his eyes in obvious contentment, his tail thumping softly against the floor. A tiny smile, the first since his admission to the hospital, flickered across Ethan's face. Lily watched them quietly for a few minutes, then said, "Guardian thinks you're very brave." Ethan's eyes widened slightly as he looked from Guardian to Lily. "He can't talk with words," Lily explained, "but sometimes he tells me things in my head. Right now, he's saying that you remind him of me when I was scared and couldn't talk either." Ethan's hand stilled on Guardian's fur. "You couldn't talk?" His voice was raspy from disuse, barely audible, but unmistakably words. Behind the one-way glass, the psychiatrist gasped. Lily shook her head. "Not for almost a whole year, after something really scary happened. But then we found Guardian, and he helped me find my words again." "How?" Ethan whispered. "By listening," Lily said, echoing her explanation from the classroom. "Even when I couldn't say things out loud, he could hear what was in my heart. And that made me not feel so alone anymore." Guardian shifted position, laying his head gently in Ethan's lap. The boy froze momentarily, then resumed petting the dog's ears. "Guardian says," Lily continued softly, "that whatever bad thing happened to you, it wasn't your fault, and that you're safe now." Tears filled Ethan's eyes. "The bad men," he whispered, "they hurt my dad. I hid in the closet. I didn't help him." "You were being smart," Lily assured him. "Guardian says that's what you were supposed to do. Stay safe so your dad didn't have to worry about you too. But I should have—" "Guardian was a police dog," Lily interrupted gently. "He knows about bad men and what to do when they come. and he says you did exactly the right thing." Ethan looked down at the dog with new respect. "He was a police dog? For real?" Lily nodded. "The bravest one ever. He got hurt really bad trying to save his police person from bad men. That's why his back leg is a little crooked. But he's okay now. He got better, just like you will." Lily smiled. "Want to hear how we found him? It's a pretty amazing story." For the next half hour, Ethan listened in rapt attention as Lily told a simplified version of their adventures. As she spoke, the tension gradually left his body. By the time she finished, he was sitting cross-legged on the floor beside Guardian, actively asking questions and even smiling occasionally. When it was time to leave, Ethan looked panicked. "Will you come back?" 2 days from now," Lily promised, "and we'll stay longer next time." "Guardian too?" "Of course, we're a team." As they walked down the hospital corridor afterward, the psychiatrist shook her head in amazement. I don't even have words for what that was. Ethan hasn't spoken in 3 months, despite our best efforts. And in one session with you and Guardian, he's talking in complete sentences." Kate smiled. "It's not us, it's Guardian. There's something special about him?" "And Lily," the doctor added. "The way she translated what was happening made it safe for Ethan to open up. That's a rare gift." Lily, who had been walking ahead with Guardian, turned back. "Guardian says it's because we both know what it feels like to be broken. So we can recognize the broken places in other people and help them not feel so alone there." The psychiatrist glanced at Kate, then back to Lily. "That's a very profound insight, Lily." "It's not me," Lily shrugged. "Guardian's really smart. He understands people better than most people do." That evening, as the family sat on their porch watching the sunset, Tom brought out a small cake with candles. "What's this for?" Lily asked, her eyes lighting up. "It's not my birthday. It's Guardian's adoption day," Tom explained. "1 year ago today, we officially became his family." Guardian, who had been dozing at Lily's feet, perked up at the sound of his name, his tail sweeping the porch boards. "Do you think he remembers?" Lily wondered, running her fingers through his fur. "I think he remembers everything," Kate said. "The good and the bad. That's what makes him so special with the children at the hospital. He knows what pain feels like, but he also knows what healing feels like." "Guardian says Detective Harper would be happy about what we're doing," Lily reported, "using what happened to help other people instead of staying sad about it." Tom lit the candles. "That sounds like excellent advice." He smiled at Kate. "One I think we could all take to heart." As Lily helped Guardian blow out the candles, with considerable assistance from her own breath, Kate reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past year, from a storm-soaked night of terror to this peaceful family celebration. From a critically injured dog dragging himself across their field to the confident therapy animal who now helped traumatized children find their voices. From a selectively mute little girl to the compassionate, articulate child who seemed wise beyond her years. Some might call their connection supernatural or impossible. Professionals might label it a trauma bond or a psychological coping mechanism. But watching Lily whisper something in Guardian's ear that made his tail wag enthusiastically, Kate knew that labels didn't matter. What mattered was that two broken beings had found each other in their darkest moments and somehow, together, created light. "Guardian says," Lily announced, looking up from the dog with frosting on her fingers, "that sometimes animals find the people who can hear them, and sometimes people who are lost find the animals who will lead them home." Tom wrapped his arm around Kate's shoulders as they watched their daughter and the extraordinary dog who had changed their lives. "Well," he said softly, "I think Guardian might be the wisest member of this family." Guardian barked once, as if in agreement, sending Lily into peals of laughter. Some connections defy explanation. They simply are, as mysterious as the bond between a wounded child and a broken dog, who somehow, against all odds, made each other whole again. Which moment in the story touched your heart the most? And do you believe animals can sense things about us that even we don't know? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this heartwarming story of a brave dog and the little girl who could hear him. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from,